Some cars don't just win races. They rewrite the rulebook so hard, the sport has to change its own laws to stop them. Today, we're counting down the 10 greatest Formula One cars ever built. The machines that were so far ahead of everyone else, they weren't really racing the competition anymore. They were racing history. 1. Lotus 79. We're starting with a car that didn't just win races, it changed the fundamental physics of how every Formula One car has been designed ever since. The Lotus 79, nicknamed Black Beauty, was the first car to properly exploit ground effect aerodynamics. Colin Chapman's team shaped the underside of the car like an upside-down airplane wing, using sliding skirts to seal the sides and create a low-pressure zone underneath the car. The result was a car that got sucked onto the track, generating enormous cornering grip without the drag penalty of a giant wing. Mario Andretti won the 1978 World Championship in it, and other teams simply couldn't compete not because their drivers were worse, but because their cars were working with completely different physics. Every modern F1 car, every underfloor tunnel, every diffuser shaping the airflow beneath the chassis today, it all traces back to this single car. The Lotus 79 handed Formula One an entirely new language of speed that engineers are still speaking almost 50 years later. That's why it tops this list. 2. McLaren MP4 fourths. Next up is a car that a lot of people expect to see at number 1, and honestly, it's hard to argue against it. The MP4 fourths won 15 out of 16 races in 1988. 15 out of 16. With Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost, two of the greatest drivers who ever lived driving for the same team in the same car, the MP4 fourths produced arguably the most dominant single season by win percentage in the sport's history. In the only race it didn't win, Senna was leading comfortably before a late collision with a backmarker. If not for that, this car might have swept every single race on the calendar. Some records simply haven't been touched since. 3. Ferrari F2004. Number 3 is widely considered the most dominant Ferrari in the team's entire history. Designed by Rory Byrne, the F2004 won 13 of 18 races in the hands of Michael Schumacher, who claimed his 7th, and at the time, final world championship. The car's engine, chassis, and aerodynamics were so refined that at several circuits, Ferrari's biggest competition was simply beating their own lap times from practice. Schumacher himself has said this was the best car he ever drove in his career, and considering everything he drove, that's about as strong an endorsement as a race car can get. 4. Williams FW14B. By 1992, Williams and design duo Adrian Newey and Patrick Head had built something that felt almost unfair to the rest of the grid. The FW14B had active suspension that constantly adjusted ride height in real time, plus early traction control and a semi-automatic gearbox. Nigel Mansell won 9 of the first 10 races of the season and wrapped up the World Championship with 5 races still left on the calendar. It was so far ahead technologically that the FIA banned active suspension, traction control, and several other driver aids just 1 year later. Sound familiar? A lot of cars on this list share that same fate, built brilliantly, then legislated out of existence. 5. Red Bull RB19. Number 5 is the most recent car on this list, and arguably the most statistically dominant Formula One car ever built. Designed under Adrian Newey, the RB19 won 21 of 22 races in 2023. Max Verstappen alone won 19 of them, including 10 in a row at one point, a record that had never been touched in F1 history. It wasn't just fast in a straight line or through one type of corner. The RB19 had almost no weaknesses, quick in slow corners, quick in fast corners, gentle on its tires, and reliable across a full season. When engineers talk about a complete race car, this is usually the example they reach for. 6. Mercedes W11. The
and helped Lewis
W11
Hamilton
was,
tie Michael
statistically,
Schumacher's championship
one of the
record.
most dominant
But
cars
here's
the
the
hybrid
crazy
turbo
part.
era ever
After
produced.
2026,
Lewis
we'll
Hamilton took it to 11 wins in 17 races, and Mercedes locked up the Constructors' Championship with races to spare. The car also featured DAS dual-axis steering, a system that let the driver change the toe angle of the front wheels just by pulling the steering wheel toward himself. It was so clever and gave such a tire management advantage that the FIA banned it for the following season. When your innovation gets outlawed before your rivals can even copy it properly, you know you built something special. 7. Mercedes W196. Mercedes returned to Grand Prix racing in 1954 after a 20-year absence and showed up with a car that was basically from the future. The W196 had fuel injection at a time when most of the grid was still running carburetors. It had desmodromic valves borrowed straight from aircraft engine design. And for high-speed circuits, Mercedes gave it a fully enclosed, streamlined body that looked more like a silver missile than a race car. Juan Manuel Fangio won 2 world championships in it, and to this day, some historians consider the W196 the most technologically advanced car of its entire era, a full generation ahead of the competition. 8. Lotus 25. Before the Lotus 25, F1 cars were built like ladders, a tubular space frame chassis with the bodywork wrapped around it. Colin Chapman looked at that and asked, what if the body itself was the structure? The result was the first fully monocoque chassis in Formula One. It was lighter, stiffer, and lower to the ground than anything else on the grid. Jim Clark drove it to the 1,963 World Championship, winning 7 of 10 races that season. Every single F1 car built since every carbon fiber tub on the grid today is a descendant of this idea. The Lotus 25 didn't just win races, it defined what a race car's skeleton would look like for the next 60 years. 9. Brabham BT46B fan car. Number 9 lasted exactly 1 race, and it's still talked about almost 50 years later. Designed by Gordon Murray, the Brabham BT46B had a massive fan bolted to the back of the car. Officially, it was there for engine cooling. Unofficially, that fan was sucking air out from underneath the car so hard it created enormous downforce, gluing the car to the track like nothing else on the grid. Niki Lauda drove it to victory at the 1978 Swedish Grand Prix, lapping the entire field except for the podium finishers. It was so dominant, so obviously a downforce device disguised as a cooling fan, that rival teams protested immediately. Brabham withdrew the car right after that win rather than fight a ban. 1 race, 1 win, banned forever after. That's a legend. 10. Tyrrell P34. Show archival footage, photos of the 6-wheeled Tyrrell. And we're closing with the strangest car on this list and maybe the strangest car in F1 history, period. The Tyrrell P34 had 6 wheels, 4 tiny ones up front, 2 normal ones in the back. Designer Derek Gardner's logic was simple. Smaller front wheels meant less drag and a smaller frontal area, which meant more speed. And it actually worked. In 1976, at the Swedish Grand Prix, the P34 didn't just win, it finished first and second, with Jody Scheckter and Patrick Depailler crossing the line together in one of the strangest and most iconic photo finishes in F1 history. It never quite repeated that success, and tire manufacturers eventually stopped making those special small front tires, which killed the concept. But the P34 earns its spot on this list for one reason. It proved that in Formula One, if you're willing to break the mold completely, sometimes the mold breaks first. So that's our list of 10 cars that didn't just win, they forced the sport to rewrite its own rules to keep up. Now I want to hear from you. What car should have made this list that didn't? Drop your pick in the comments. I read every one, and the best arguments might end up in a future video. If you enjoyed this, hit subscribe, drop a like, and check out 5 greatest Porsche sleeper cars ever built. Next, I think you'll love it just as much. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.